Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Art Live update. And it's going to be a good one. We've got Joe and Nadia Mannarino in for tonight's Heritage Auction preview. And I'm not going to leave them in the green room any longer than this, because I'm going to bring them in right now. Hey, Joe and Nadia.
Hello. How's everybody?
Well, I am fantastic. But I think we're both in the same boat. We're still trying to recover from our recent moves.
Big time.
It's been really hard. Last time we moved was 35 years ago, so things have piled up.
I do understand.
Yeah.
We were all talking about how we were going to be living out of boxes for a little while, or living with boxes, not living out of boxes. With boxes. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I just wanted to come on with Joe for a few minutes and thank everyone for the support in 2022. And hi, Scott. We're looking forward to 2023, and we've got some great things lined up. So I want to say thank you for all your support. So I leave it to Joe. Have a great show. Bye.
And she's out.
And I'm out.
All right.
Bye, Nadia.
Bye.
Okay. Here we go.
So, how have you been, Joe?
Good. It's been busy. We went to Europe for the first time since COVID, and we saw a bunch of collectors, and we met with Olivier and several other our people over there. We were there during the international auction, which did $3 million, which was a big success. So I want to thank everybody on behalf of Olivier, as well as everybody here. I mean, it's just getting bigger and bigger. As far as I see, the market's as strong as ever.
Well, it seems that way. I thought the international auction went pretty well.
Yeah,
it's always I wouldn't say it's a mixed bag. You just never know what's going to be in that auction. From the U.S. artwork versus the international artwork. So it's always interesting to see what you guys come up with.
Well, the interesting thing there is that, as you know, there is many international collectors buying American art as they buy European art. And so if we have a European collector and he gives us, two pieces of, international art and a Jack Kirby piece, well, it appeals to people there as well. And they want to see it at the preview, which we hold a preview in Brussels. We hold another preview in Paris. We opened a new office in Brussels. And so we put the material on display there. And as opposed to the U.S., I mean, they'll have 200 people at the preview in Paris.
Wow.
It's really very interesting. And people are really into it there.
Now, when people order from the international auction, that has to get shipped to the U.S. before the U.S. buyers can then get it, right? Because I think I remember hearing some people saying that the delivery time's a little bit more delayed just from the international.
Some material is there. The majority of the material is in HAE, which is in the Netherlands, but some of the material is here. So we catalog some of the material here and then ship it there. That's why we charge the extra 5%, because we don't allow clients to pay the VAT. We'll absorb the VAT, and we try and make up for the this difference in where we are.
Sure.
So but if it's a highlight and people want to see it on display at a preview, then we'll ship it there so that it can be on the preview. So then it's in Europe.
That's a lot of back and forth for the artwork to get a deal done. That's
yes, exactly. But we do it. I'm always amazed. Halprin doesn't spare any expense.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. His collection shows that too. So we're going to talk about the upcoming signature auction that starts on Thursday, and it goes all the way through Sunday, right? I didn't actually look at the whole thing, but it's through the 20th. So yeah, it goes through Sunday. Lots of interesting lots in there. I know we've gotten kind of a diverse set of PR emails that have come out of this one, where there was one that was about the Liefeld piece with an interview with him. There was a mention of the Jim Lee pieces that came direct from him. And then was there also a Frank Miller
Yeah.
What kind of set of pieces that are in this auction as well?
Yeah, directly from Frank Miller. I mean, to me, that's the exciting thing about this auction. Whether or not we've gotten material from other, artists, sometimes they don't allow us to say who it's from or who it's not from. Now, we've never gotten anything, as far as I know, directly from Frank Miller, and I don't think he's ever consigned to an auction before. But he was so happy with the way the Dark Knight One cover went, even though that one wasn't his, but he was involved. He came to the New York office. He got involved in some of the PR. That he's consigned some of his Sin City pieces, which were the things that he always held back to himself. So those are directly from Frank. Jim Lee, a cross section of his whole career. 11 different items. Rob, with the his first drawings for Deadpool. So all of that is very exciting. Then we have additional material from like the Al Williamson collection, and then various other pieces. So obviously fresh to the market. Obviously, these are pieces that no one's seen before.
That's good. Well, then why don't we dive in and look at them? I know you gave me a nice set of pieces to look at here, and we can kind of move around and, as we see fit to look at different things. But and I kept them in the order that I got them in the spreadsheet too. So that first piece that we're going to look at is that Calvin and Hobbes by Watterson. And that's a good one.
This is an exciting consignment because, this is from the estate of Lee Salem. If anybody hasn't been involved with syndicates, it's the syndicate that basically called all the shots. I mean, whether, every artist wanted to have something put into syndication. Well, Lee Salem is the guy that, first saw the Watterson art and then decided that it would be run. It had been turned down by different people. So they then became friends. And so this was a gift to Lee Salem. And, now the family has decided to part with a few things. So here, Watterson hand colored the Sunday. I think, off the top of my head, the Calvin and Hobbes began in 1985. This is 1987. Nice early example. It exhibits the super imagination. They think by going faster and faster in the card, he's traveling through time. It's very dynamic. Just a beautiful piece. Yeah, I mean, and Calvin and Hobbes for modern art is the standard that everybody loves. I don't know anybody who doesn't like this strip.
Well, I mean, anybody who grew up reading it adores it, right? I mean, no, it's fantastic. We got to see some of Watterson's pieces at the Billy Ireland Museum when we were there in Columbus in August, and but none was strips that were colored. There were a few painted pieces that were there that they showed us, but not one quite like this one. This is really unique.
Yeah, and as you know, he's donating everything to the Billy Ireland Museum, so. He only gave away, he was always very cautious. He was always a bit paranoid about his art, being that, rejected through the years, whatever the reasons were. But he never gave any away, never let the syndicate give any away. So there's only a handful of pieces that he ever gave away to friends.
Yeah, there's not much on the market. So yeah, well, this I'll be curious to see where this one ends up. There's going to be a lot of interest in it, obviously. Yeah. And this is one of the Jim Lees that you have in the auction. Yeah,
I thought that you would like it because that's a pretty dynamic image. So I was thinking about your little your preview as it came up, and I mean that's a pretty good. Image there. Superman Unchained #1 cover. Red Hot Scott Snyder wrote the series, and as I mentioned earlier, Jim Lee, there's 11 different pieces from his collection, which basically span his entire career. I highlighted a few, but if you want to bring up, do a search and you could check them out, and you'll see from the Punisher War Journal to the X-Men 268 page, Batman Hush, Death Blow. You got quite a few pieces. All of them would be, highlights in any sale. I mean, nobody's hotter than Jim Lee. I mean,
Nope.
Look at that Captain America double page spread in from the X-Men. I mean,
Yeah, from 268. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's just lots of great stuff in here from Jim. Yeah, these are gorgeous. Yeah, and nobody is hotter than Jim right now. I mean, he's been at the top for a long time. I mean, his new covers are commanding crazy prices. I think Albert sold one of his covers through our show this weekend as well. $25,000, brand new cover. It's just amazing the prices that Jim's work
amazing
commands. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's unheard of.
Well, I mean, every time I've been on, I try and touch on what are the hot trends, and still, if I had to, the two hottest trends are, the image artists, right around the time of when they began Image, art from Marvel just prior to beginning at Image, and then after they went to work for Image. I mean, Jim Lee's in particular, I mean, right up until now, anything he's doing is still super hot. It's not just his old material. It's very unusual. So whether it's Jim Lee, whether it's McFarlane, whether it's Liefeld, whether it's and I've picked a couple of the other guys just to fit in there as well, because that is still the hot theme. I mean, that, and if I had to quantify it, I would say the British artists, the Neil Gaiman, more kind of thing, vehicles, and those things are unbelievably hot.
Yep, I can't argue with you there. So that's a nice selection of Jim's work, that's for sure. And then this is the Liefeld that you mentioned. I know you guys did a mailing just for this piece, and I've seen Rob talking a lot about it online too.
Yeah, I mean, Rob is very proud of this, and he should be. I mean, Deadpool has now become a mainstream media character. The sequels are as hot as the original movie, which is unusual. And Rob explains that the way he works is he always does pretty tight thumbnails like this, doing an entire comic book, and then sits down to just expand and tighten that up on the drawing board. So this is the original first drawing of Deadpool that he did as the first prelim. So he's consigned it to the sale, and I mean, it's a piece of history. There's no doubt about it. There are 2 pages from it, this, and I believe a cover. So this is going to do well. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. His first appearance, 1991. It's well, I think everybody's aware of what's happened with Deadpool.
Oh yeah, I mean, for a prelim at $26,000 at this stage, it's it's clearly highly desirable, and as it should be.
Yeah.
All right. Then Todd McFarlane, an Incredible Hulk page with Wolverine on it.
Yeah, it's I think this is the first page we've ever offered from that issue. I mean, and it's that's a spectacular page. Look at the work that Todd did in this page. It's wonderful. I give him credit. He went his own way with the way the Hulk looks, and Marvel accepted it back then, which was that's saying something. And it didn't change, all of a sudden it didn't change the way the character looked, and all the things that Marvel was always worried about with people doing different versions of their characters. and McFarlane is the guy,
Yeah, well, McFarlane is allowed to have as much leeway back then as he wanted because he was so popular, and yeah, this is a fun page just story wise as well. So, there's yeah, it's going to do really well. You just don't see a lot of McFarlane good Hulk pages, great Hulk pages on the market. And this one, you get Wolverine in it and a lot of action and everything you'd want out of a McFarlane Hulk page. So yeah, this is a great page.
I also like the way, again, look at the way the Knight, he depicts the dark background so that the snow and for effect, and then he goes back to the light background. He was thinking about things when he was doing this.
Oh yeah, the Johnny McCloskey said the last panel captures what the underbid would say. Knowing when to fight and when to walk away is more smarts than you'll ever have. That is probably what many underbidders have thought over the years at many auctions. But yeah, this is a great one though. I mean, yeah, I love this one.
What's the price at now?
It's at 48.
I mean, that is surprisingly high. I mean, in the past, the Hulk. Look, we sold that one cover with the iconic punch. That I think is still the highest priced. It was the highest priced McFarlane cover for a long time, but it wasn't really a Hulk cover. You know what I'm saying? This is usually his Hulk pages don't go for this, but again, it's the artists, those image artists doing work at I mean, that's the hot trend. Everybody wants something.
Yes, they do. I've never owned a McFarlane.
Yeah, I had what was it, cover of 327, the one with the Green Goblin. I had that. I had a couple of complete books back when they were $10,000. I set up next to McFarlane the first time he set up at a show in New York. And I didn't even know who he was. And he set up next to me, and he knew who I was or something. And I'm looking through his art, and I thought, this is really different. So I always like to support new artists. So I said to him, well, how much are these pages? I picked out about a dozen pages. And he goes, well, the interior pages are $600 each, and the covers are $3,000. Now, think this is back in the 80s. And I'm saying, what? I said, that's more than Jack Kirby art sells for. Oh, I know. He says, I said, he goes, because I really don't want to sell them. I want to trade them. He says, I'm here with my brother-in-law, and we own a comic, a sports store where we sell cards, baseball cards. So I want to trade them for cards. And I said, are you kidding? And he goes, no. So I said, well, I have some cards. He goes, well, what do you have? What do you have? And so I had a complete set of maybe 3 complete sets of play ball from 1941 with DiMaggio and Bill Dick, all the different iconic ball players. So he says, well, bring them in. You have nothing to lose. Bring them in. So the next day I bring him in, and he's looking through them, and he says, I'll give you 200 in trade for the DiMaggio. I said, 200 in trade for the. I said that guide's for like $1,100, and he goes, you don't think I'm giving you retail, do you? That was the end of it.
Yeah, that was it right there.
And McFarlane is never
wheeling and dealing.
He was a good businessman back then, and he is now.
Wow. Hey, Knights of Old was curious if you have you ever owned personally, not for resale, at least initially, any McFarlane, Jim Lee, or Liefeld, or are they people or guys that you've collected? I mean, I know you're probably more on the Kirby side of things, but I know you've got a pretty eclectic, collection.
No, as I said, I had the McFarlane Spider-Man cover. What was it, 327? I think off the top of my head it was 320. That's the one with the Green Goblin on the.
I'd have to double check it.
Yeah. I had several complete books of different things back in the day, but when the prices went up so dramatically, and I was doing all-star auctions, my own, I would put up, just to see the auction, something that was hot, and that's what was hot. So, I do have some McFarlane pages. I do have some Jim Lee pages. I do have some Liefeld pages. I don't have what I used to have. But yes, I appreciate I think I've said it here numerous times, but in my opinion, you always go back and try and look at, who are going to be the people that are still standing after a particular era is over. Like, who were the most influential artists of the golden age? Who were the most influential artists of the silver age, bronze age? Of the modern age, who are going to be the most influential artists that are going to still be, around? I think you're going to have Jim Lee, you're going to have McFarlane, you're going to have Frank Miller, you're going to have Liefeld right there, and a couple of others. But those are the guys that will still be standing no matter what the flavor of the day is.
So when you got those complete stories, did you end up getting those from McFarlane directly, or were you the second buyer?
I got. Let me think. No, I was the second buyer on the complete. There was at that same show, a guy walked in who was a Spider-Man fan. He was a very, very big in the real estate market. Huge guy in real estate. Guy, never was a collector. Just walked into the show in New York after seeing an ad, and he walked up to McFarlane's table and bought all the things that I kind of picked out, like several covers, couple of complete books. That was also the show right after that I had talked about, where Kirby Art first appeared. He bought 2 complete Ditko books.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, he bought 4 complete Ditko books. We auctioned 2 of them at Christie's, and 2 were auctioned at Sotheby's.
So you got his card while he was there? I take it.
No, he called me afterwards. He had somehow heard about me and got in touch with me. So then when I went to visit him, he dropped out for a while. The only reason I'm remembering is that I spoke to him not that long ago. He's gotten back in, and he's asked me, because he likes Eric Larson. He likes a lot of the Spider-Man guys that appeal to him from 80s, 90s.
Wow. So Scott and Will Calismo mentioned that it was the 312 was the Goblin cover.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But wow, that's still good. I hear stories about guys like that a lot. Professionals who were jumped in, bought a lot, and then kind of disappeared. Most of them don't get back into it, but there's a lot of those guys out there that have come into the hobby for brief periods of time, picked up a lot of great stuff. Maybe they've hung it in the walls of their offices, whatever they may be, wherever they're at, and then that's it. That's all they go for. So you just never know where there's Barry Windsor Smiths floating around, or early John Byrne, or McFarlane, that sort of thing out there, just because it's happened more often than you'd like to think. We as collectors, you just never know. There's so many pieces you haven't seen before. You never know where they're at.
Well, exactly. I mean, a lot of the pieces. Who's the one that? I mean, David Mandel often says that he's always on the hunt for people where there were comic stores in obscure places, even Canada, and because back in the 80s and the 90s, so many artists were doing signings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where Garib, Seamus and his dad owned a comic store there in Rockland County, New York, right on the border of New Jersey. And he would have signings of a lot of the hot artists, and that's why when they started Image, he was there, but he was buying from them at the store. I just went to a friend of mine's store, and where I used to go in New Jersey, and they have the cover of Preacher #1 that he did Fabry did a signing there, and they offered to buy the cover. You had it there on display.
Wow.
And that's the only piece. There was a collector that bought almost every single Preacher cover. And that's why none of them have ever been on the market. Very few painted covers. And in this sale, we have 4 because he's now decided to let go of those covers, and we are starting to auction those. So I have that, a couple later, and in addition, a complete preacher book.
Dang. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, here, the next piece is really nice. Let me pull this one up here. Let me click on this one. So a very nice Frankenstein or Lost Frankenstein plate. I love the reflections in the water here. I mean, nobody compares to Wrightson. When you look at you see a piece like this, you just know, it was by Bernie. It's gorgeous.
This was during his Franklin Booth period, and he was just so on it. I mean, I don't know how he didn't go blind doing this. He did so many in such a short period of time, and every one was getting better and better. I mean, the laboratory scenes, but look at this one, and it's interesting. I think his comments about this was that the problem with this is that every single person, whoever looked at this, immediately turned it around thinking it was upside down. They felt that the reflection was what is the primary thing, and so I think that's why it wasn't used in the original publication, even though it's spectacular.
Yeah, but the only thing I could say about it, as being off, is it could use a little bit more, breathing room up there at the top, and then maybe it wouldn't have that quality where you'd want to turn it around. But I mean, I love it nonetheless. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's gorgeous.
That's what he intended, though, and I mean, it's just sometimes the publisher is not going to always let the artist run with their vision. But I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, no, it is, and just the different styles of inking that he's using here in this piece are so fitting for the reflection in the water versus the way he's handling the reeds. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Wow. And there's a second McFarlane plate in the auction.
Right.
Yeah, he's up on Frankenstein plate on a ship, and it's very film noir type of thing. It's very different. Look at the icon above, Bill. Maybe it's right next.
Is this one here?
Yeah, I mean, look how different that is.
Oh wow. Yeah, I hadn't seen this one before. I haven't gone through the whole set of lots yet, but
shame on you.
I'm sorry. I've had a busy couple of weeks with that con that I just wrapped up this weekend, but wow, this thing is beautiful. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, he's drawing life right there. I mean, he's so confident in the work that he's doing with his line work here. It's amazing.
What I love about it, when he was like on his hands, which so many artists struggle with hand, are so expressive. I mean, he was just like, there was nothing he couldn't do.
Indeed. Wow. Nope. That's gorgeous. And that one's at 40,000 right now. Well,
yeah,
I can see why. Oh man, now we're switching into some Spidey here, John Romita Sr.
Yeah, I tried to make everybody happy, so I went back and forth with some stuff. This is Romita, Jim Mooney, Spider-Man '88 Splash, beautiful. This is where this was the issue where Dr. Octopus is in jail, and somebody had the idea of putting his arms in a museum, and then he uses his mental powers to control the arms, and so we then get the Dr. Octopus mental link from that point forward. But even though it has yet to happen, this is the scene that's about to happen. So it's really cool. Then, of course, the arms free him from prison and the whole bit.
Yeah, it's a great page. What issue was? 88.
No. Yeah. And Mooney did a great job inking this.
Yeah, no, he really did.
Signed by Stan Lee. What's this page at? What's this splash at?
25 right now.
So look at the difference. I mean, yeah, 2 years ago, where would this have been relative to those pieces we've talked about already? And yet, what's hot is hot. That doesn't mean that this is not, but it's just
Yeah, no,
everything
it's.
not.
I love this piece. I mean, I love Romita Spider-Man. I know a lot of people have like a few other artists, over him, but I've always liked his stuff a lot. And this is just a really nice page.
One of the giants.
Yes. Oh, and then I did show this one earlier, but yeah, I mean, this is so good. It's worth a second look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what this period of uncanny DPSs go for. I mean, there's been a few out there on the market. I mean, this one's already, I didn't check the price earlier, but at 57.5 already. Yeah, it's going to do really well.
Yeah, he was really doing great. Here's the first of the Frank Miller. I picked one of the 4 pieces he consigned. They're all from Sin City. Of course, this is Marv, and go a little higher, and you'll see that he's holding a head, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
That's the head. I mean, Miller was trying. I mean, this is his nod to the old gangster movies and film noir, and as he thought that bringing it into the modern day. So, you've got film noir, you got minimalism here, you got a little bit of the Ronin kind of thing going on with just so many broken lines to indicate the light. I mean, it's.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, the work that he did during this period was, I mean, I don't know. I love his Daredevil kind of, his earlier stuff, but I love what he was doing here.
Yeah. I mean, look at the confidence with which he leaves the lines around the shoulders broken.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to look for. I was hoping I'd see some pencil marks or something in it.
Yeah. No, I think that, he went right to the ink, and I mean, it's real confident there. That it also would reproduce well is kind of shocking, in the book itself, but it does. And then he's got, if you want to bring up, like right next to it, to your right, you see on the icon, yeah. So you have one that's Goldie and one that's Nancy, right?
I missed the one, but yeah, this one's on there. I could search on Frank Miller to see it, but yeah, look at that. It's just insane how, what a role he was on when he was doing the Sin City stuff. This is just, it's gorgeous.
I mean, that's bold to do this, to get away with it.
Yeah, Marcus says Miller does not lack confidence, even in current work. You could say that. That's true. I mean, he's not afraid, and that's what always made him unique, right? I mean,
yeah.
It took me a while to get to actually appreciate his work, even when he was on Daredevil while I was buying them. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take long for me to figure out that I love Miller's work. So
yeah, go up, scroll up, and you'll see in the icons right above there's 4 consecutive Millers. Right? Go to your well, that's a Ronin page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then go to the next.
Oh, these 2 right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
there's yeah. I mean, this is wild.
As only he can do it.
I mean, it's all about the gun and the rear end, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. What was that last page?
It's another Marv, but it's this one is almost 100% film noir.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then not from his collection is a Ronin 1. I think it's a Ronin 1 page.
Yeah, I did see that one earlier. That one was this piece right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely, man. Yeah, I love Ronin. It's one of One of my favorite all-time books, honestly.
Very Moebius.
Yeah.
He was really inspired by some of the European artists at that point, and you know, yeah, he created his own world.
Yeah, that one's going to do really well. There's a lot of Ronin fans out there.
Mm-hmm.
And Mazzucchelli from Born
Yeah, I
Again.
thought because that story arc with Fisk and is so iconic and so set the stage for the modern Daredevil that I even though people appreciate him, I think he's really underrated.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he might not have as big a fan base as maybe he deserves, but the fan base that he has loves his work, right?
Yeah.
And so much so that the pieces from some of these stories, like this one in particular, go they always sell for really high prices just because the fan base that he has can't get enough of his work. And the thing is, there just isn't a lot of his work out there.
No, he didn't do it for that long. This is the final chapter of the Born Again story arc, and Daredevil mess up to find as Wilson Fisk is also there receiving an award. So it's you've got both. That's what you want. I mean, it's amazing to me how many Daredevils. I mean, Daredevil back in the day wasn't the most popular of characters, of course, until Miller took over. But now, across the board, whether it's Sienkiewicz, whether it's Mazzucchelli, whether it's Miller, whether it's, I mean, all the different artists. I mean, later we've got the Tim Sale cover. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Nope, I agree. Yeah, that one's going to do really well, guaranteed. And then I know we've got a few Defenders covers to look at. You've kind of had a it seems like every auction there's one or two Defenders covers in them, but they're all great.
Yeah, this is, but these are from different people than we've got in the past. You talk about one of them came from a very long time collector who had his collection for a long time. The other one, I'm not sure how long he had it, but whether it's is this the Buscema one? Yeah, the Sal Buscema. So
or Kirby maybe
is this the Kirby or the we have a Kirby and a Buscema?
Yeah, this is
this is the Kirby cover.
Yep.
So Kirby came back to Marvel, and it's interesting that one of the books they put him on was the Defenders. Sweet. That's right. Thank you, Wes.
Wes knows a good cover when he sees it. But yeah, no, this is awesome. I love it. I've always loved the Defenders as a team. They were just such an offbeat group of characters, and but it worked. The stories were always fun.
This is the second lineup, right? With Hulk, Valkyrie, Power Man, Red Guardian, Nighthawk, Hellcat.
Right.
The other cover has the original.
Exactly. Yeah, that one has like Surfer on it too, and
Surfer. Yeah, I mean, look at that.
You get the Hulk, Subby.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice one, and Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, Sal did a great job on this one.
Wow. Yeah, that one's at 41 already. That's doing all right.
Sal Buscema outselling Jack Kirby. There's that's all you need to know.
Yeah, well, Sal's fan. The people who love Sal. I mean, there's I think his the ranks of fans who follow Sal, love Sal's work is growing day by day. I don't. They used to be John. I think that was the favorite, but I tell you, people really appreciate all the work that Sal did over the years. They just love his stuff. I mean, his stuff is so easily to spot too when you see it. You can tell a Sal Buscema face from a mile away. They always have that same, I don't know, a quality about them that you just know it was Sal who drew it. So nothing in the Sal Buscema market surprises me anymore.
He's also in that sweet spot of, a lot of the titles and the story arcs that have gone on to become, classics. So people relate back.
One wants to say that this cover has the Silver Surfer premium that the other doesn't. That's very true. Silver Surfer
Well,
does make a big difference.
that's what I was saying. This is the original. Yeah, absolutely. And Doctor Strange. I mean, anything. There's another character that didn't sell well at one point, and now anything with Doctor Strange on it does well. Even though it's a back shot, but it's still Doctor Strange. I mean, you and it's such a clean cover. I mean, it's in great condition.
Yeah, this was 11. Yeah, I knew this was an early one.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we've got an Ingalls.
Again, just to be a little, some diversity, I decided to throw in an EC cover, especially when you've got, Graham Ingalls, Ghastly. Again, an underrated artist, not among EC fans, but among, if you ask the typical comic art fan, name top artist, they wouldn't include Ingalls. And yet, one of the most unique styles, and changes style to suit the horror theme, and it was such a perfect match. And he could draw anything.
He's drawn some really good hands here, reminiscent of Bernie, right? I mean, that's very expressive.
Yeah,
but same kind of approach to the way Bernie inks, though. Those pieces that we looked earlier. He's not too concerned about outlining things. He's letting the inks do the work for him. So even in the banister, it's like there's no real defined shape there. He's just letting the natural lighting and the way he's handling the inks on it define all of those things. I mean, it's a work of art. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, and in with Ingalls, he when he started doing the horror, he decided he wasn't going to have many straight. Everything is a curvy, flowy, kind of like look at the witch, the vault keeper, and everything else. I mean, his depictions of them. He decided to get away from straight lines and really just let the brush go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's beautiful. If you want a horror cover, you're not going to do much better than this.
No, and it's at 41,000 right now.
And for me, it's not so overt. You could put it on the wall, even if you have a family at home.
Right. Maybe he's helping that guy down the stairs,
There's the optimism. Okay.
He's rescuing him from some.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. We have rules around our house too about what we can show and what we can't show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's a nice early 80s FF cover, of course, by Mr. Byrne. I mean, nobody drew the thing quite like he did, I think.
I mean, this cover, even, my son was over yesterday, and I said, he goes, Dad, in the sale, I really like the Byrne cover. It's my favorite piece. I said, really? He goes, because he's not a big John Byrne fan. He says, that is just really a stunning cover. You put that up on the wall, and it's three-dimensional. It looks like it's coming at you, and you got Dr. Doom, the mask to boot. He says, what's not to like about that? I can't argue with him.
No, this is always a striking cover. I mean, and nobody drew. I always appreciated the way Byrne drew women. You think always it's like with so many other artists, the way he drew a woman's eyes, you knew it was John Byrne, right? He always had this kind of signature way he handled that. I mean, yeah, I've always loved the way he drew women's eyes. I don't know why, but it was just like you just knew it was him from his early work to his later work. He kind of always had those signature the way he drew the eyes. But yeah, this is a great one. I can see
there's not many Byrne covers that feature Sue in the as this one does. So that's, as you're alluding to, but that is one of the things that makes it more unique.
Yeah, it's a good one. Oh, look, it's some Sandman art, Mikhail.
Again, you can't.
It's from
the
Dringenberg.
art is so hot that I have to keep focusing on it and bringing it up. We have a couple of really good Sandman pages in this. One early page with Sam Keith, and then one later. So you have both, periods. And this one is let's see. The first one is the Sandman 8, right? Page 14, right?
8. Yeah, this is 8.
Sound of her wings introduced the endless being known as death. Dream's slightly older sister, and she would become the the personification of goth for a lot of people later on.
Yeah, this is a really nice page.
I mean, they've been going for higher and higher each sale. How much is this one at?
It is at 27 right now.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it doesn't sell for 60.
Yeah, well, we'll know in a few days, right?
Yeah,
later this week.
Yeah.
Signed by Gaiman as well.
Yeah, and I believe Drigenberg.
Yeah, nope, this is good. Hey, Knights of Old had a question for you. Will there be more art from the Peter Chung Eon Flux archives coming out? Are you aware of anything?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, and unless we don't normally allowed to talk about stuff like that, because sometimes the consignor doesn't want you to. They want if they're doing it a little at a time, but sometimes they don't. It's just like those. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, we have the complete book of Tales of Suspense 39, the Iron Man origin," and they're going to be just wait for the. Well, this auction there isn't one. The person didn't consign these. These consigning them one at a time if he wants to do it. So you never know.
Right. Well, so you'll just have to wait and find out. Knights of Old.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Now here's a nice Kirby Royer piece, Forever People. And this is did I read that? Yeah, it was complete 22-page story.
That's the reason I featured it. Sometimes when it seems each preview we have the discussion about whether it's better to break up a book or keep it together, and it's a shame to break them up. Well, here's an opportunity to get a complete Kirby book. And I believe we have a second book as well. So, this while this splash is okay, I mean it's dynamic, but some of the pages inside, there's a great page. If you go along the bottom edge, there is a great that beautiful dream. Yeah, click on that one. That splash.
Wow. That's great.
And it's the page that says Jack Kirby at the bottom, and he signed it above it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Royer really was one of his best inkers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Just stayed so true to what Jack's intentions were. Oh man, like those last two panels are crazy great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Dead Man Walking, the original Dead Man guest stars in this Fourth World book. Yep. So if you're a Dead Man fan, you're also.
Oh yeah, there you go. Look at that, man.
Wow.
These are great pages. Wow. Well, I'll be curious to see where that one ends up. But yeah. That's nice. 22-page story. Dang.
So for the next person that complains that we broke up a book, let's see how it does. Here's the opportunity to see if it really goes for a big premium, because it's a complete book. And yet, what's the bidding at?
It's at 31 right now.
So 22 pages, it's only a little over $1,500, less than $1,500 a page
for the moment.
Yeah. And there's several splashes in it.
Long live the king. You've got that right, Wes.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Let's see. So I got to there. Oh, here we go. Another Kirby Royer Demon DP.
Yeah, this one is just this is a double page spread. I mean, Do you know how many characters there are in this? This is like, I think we counted this one. Uh, 35 unique faces in this double page spread.
Yeah, it's like a nightmare, but only Kirby could dream it up. I mean, it's frightening.
He doesn't cut any corners. I mean, as much art as he was doing, I mean, it's not like he cut any corners. It's amazing.
Yeah, very true. I mean, look at that bat skull creature underneath him. I mean, that's that's the thing that nightmares are made out of. But yeah, Kirby, he just had such an imagination. I mean, and I bet you he could knock these things out. Just he knew what he wanted, and he could just. I mean, it's just amazing that he could pull something like this together. It's gorgeous.
Well, it's like I said, he's one of the few artists that was really, as you would think an artist, what he could put down what was in his head down on paper exactly as he saw it. That's why he could start from, character's foot. He did not have to lay this page out, with circles and endless prelims and everything else. He just starts working on it and comes to the other end. It's amazing.
It really is. And this is great. This one's at 21 right now.
Yeah, and you got a great image of the demon, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I could not feature this.
All right.
And then again, just to throw a change of pace in, you don't normally see a Carl Barks page from the 50s, from Uncle Scrooge number 59. So, I'm sorry, 1965, but issue 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's got Donald and the nephews, and yeah, it's an excellent page.
It is. And it's at 16.5 right now, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. You're right. You don't see a lot of Barks on the market ever.
Not published. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great page. Let's see. Oh, little Alex Ross as well.
I mean, there's a classic Alex Ross piece. It's a triptych. I mean, look how many characters there are in this.
Yeah, that is. I'm not a DC guy, but this is a great image. I mean, Alex Ross can kind of do no wrong at the end of the day. I love that FF book that he recently put out. I mean, but this is an amazing piece. I'm curious what the size is on it. Do you know off the top of your head, or is it? It's going to be in the description.
I mean, it's in the description.
Yeah, 3 feet by 1.5 feet. Wow. That is impressive. That would look really nice on anyone's wall.
And I'll say something that might be controversial. The only time that Alex Ross lets me down a little is when all the characters look like Alex Ross. You know what I mean? Where it looks like him dressed in costume as the character.
You see a little bit of Alex in him. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But not in this. In this one, he tried to make every single one unique.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's several artists that kind of use themselves as models, and you can always see when they do, right? Yeah, it would fit well on my back wall. I've got plenty of room for a piece this size, don't I? Jeff, wedding. I saw a picture of you with Mr. Nick Perucci earlier. So you were on your New Jersey, New York trip. That's good. You should be hooking up with Jason, I think, right? That would be in order. Let's see what we got up here next. Oh, and this is I mean, I'm a Thor guy, so this is fantastic.
You know that Alex Ross, 32 different characters, and it's also released as a very successful limited edition. So it's a cover. It's it's an iconic image. So another character that's super hot is Thor. I mean, anything with Thor on it is hot, and this is a beautiful splash.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I've got a Kirby Thor, but it's not as nice as this one. But and this is twice up too, at 142 still. Or is it?
1967, right on the verge. I think it should be.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be an impressive piece, that's for sure.
And it's Coletta inks, but this is good Coletta inks.
Hey, I always thought Coletta did all right on Thor. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, of all the grief he got, I always thought he did pretty good on this book. I feel like he cared on it a bit more. I always thought he did a great job inking the character as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially when he was doing the Hercules.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, those are just.
You can go back and look at those. I would kill for a page from 126 or something like that. I mean, they're just amazing. I mean, he did such a good job on it. Let's see here. Wouldn't be complete without showing a Ditko.
Yeah, I mean, look at the action in this page. I mean, this is classic Ditko at his peak. Very flowing line. A lot of characters, a lot of action.
I wonder what McFarlane thought about Ditko. Is there ever any public comments? I mean, there's got to be. I wonder what his thoughts are. Because you look at some of this. I mean, Ditko was trying to really give Spider-Man a different kind of physical quality as a superhero, and McFarlane certainly just took that and turned it up 100%. But yeah, this is just really, whenever I see fight scenes that Ditko drew, I always feel like he was really trying to exaggerate Spider-Man and make him be very much like this contortionist gymnast kind of feel, which, carries on to this day, of course.
Well, that's the thing is that, as I've said before, Ditko originally was a very strict fine line pen artist with just touching a few strokes of black in, but he then switched to the brush where he actually penciled, could do less penciling and then go 100% with the brush. And that made Spider-Man a little bit beefier, but much more lyrical. Mm-hmm. And you see these kind of poses, the upper left-hand corner there and everything else. And in my opinion, I never heard McFarlane say it, but I'm sure that he had to be influenced by Ditko. But he wanted to do something different, and really what he did is just he just changed the frame. If you take any of those frames and you come in really close, you're looking at a McFarlane kind of image. Much tighter, much larger. His face taking up most of the thing, or a hand and then a leg in there, and he'd really bend the body so he had more body parts in it. And then, of course, he loved doing the detail on the web, on the webbing, on all of the spaghetti webbing and everything else. So the fans really appreciated it, and it was like the beginning of the what would I call it? The every page being like every panel being a splash page almost.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of a look.
Yeah, I love this page. Yeah, and I know you'd have an answer to this. It's not a Ditko question, but I know from your time with the Frazettas, Knights of Old asked if he's curious if anyone ever tried to stop Frazetta from fixing up his original paintings.
Oh yeah, I mean all of us.
That's what I thought the answer was going to be. But
family, his thing, I mean, it was always, Frank, just pick up a new canvas if you got the urge to paint. But I'm the artist, and
right.
Hey, listen, I always say that, but then he was very quick to point out that go back to his original Warren covers as an example,
mm-hmm.
and then look at how he modified them. So like Sea Witch or what's her name in the jungle, with the different cats. I mean, that's one of his great. He he took them from one thing and then made them a completely different. So when he first did it, like when he was first doing work, and he did them fast, and then he came home and then modified them to what he wanted them to look at, I can appreciate that.
Right.
But when he, 15 years after the fact, going back and then changing a painting, that's where we had the problem.
Right. I mean, in some cases, I think he made them better, but at the same time, he could have just picked up a new canvas, right, and just started it over if you really wanted to revisit a subject rather than rework something that, because he's taking images that were published and then modifying them, and that I think that at the end of the day, hey, it's his art to do whatever he wanted with it, but that's the part, I'm sure we as collectors and historians, really want to see the artwork stay as it was. So I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but you do have to keep in mind, Frank. He would say one thing in public, he'd say another thing privately, and in private, he would tell you that he always felt that he was a fine artist, but that he felt that he resented the fact that artists throughout history had to sell a piece in order to live. So they had to work, they had to sell the piece, and then until they were broke, they had to work on another piece. And in the end, they didn't have any of their own art because they're living from piece to piece. And they never got to see the value of the art go up and take advantage of it and everything else. He thought that he had figured out the perfect shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
Have someone pay me to do the art and let me keep my art. So that as a fine artist, I'm the guy, I'm the smart guy, I'm the guy that gets to keep my own art and watch it evolve, and then people begin to appreciate me more and more, and it gets more valuable, and I still have my art where all the rest of the guys had to give up all of their art. It's hard to argue with that.
It is. It definitely
is. That's what put him into the illustrator category, because he's now work for hire as opposed to just doing images on his own. And even though we all know that Frank, he didn't do Death Dealer because someone paid him to do it. He was doing any image he wanted to, and Warren and other publishers, paperback guys, were now writing stories around the images. So that's how they became published works. So this argument of what's fine art and what's not becomes difficult.
Right. I mean, was he the one that wanted to do the museum, or was it his family's decision?
That was
around.
Yeah, that was Ellie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie, they always at some point, having the kids and the house and they always needed money. It's when Betty Ballantine approached them about doing those Ballantine books that they got paid to do those books. But what they really got, the genius was, she asked that she wanted a page that she could do her own ad. And that's where she started advertising the posters.
Okay.
So they were making as much money on the posters that she was selling as they were on doing the art.
Mm-hmm.
And then Frank got sick, in the 80s, and they lived off of the licensing and the museum and the posters. So the museum came out of, hey, now let's do limited editions. Let's have a place. If we have some of the art and the people come to visit, they'll also buy some of the limited editions and some of the other pieces that we're doing. So it became a vehicle. It wasn't really something that was done, out of vanity that he wanted to show his art. It wasn't that way.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, those Ballantine books were pretty. I mean, that's how I really got introduced to his work.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic. I mean, shoot, I was probably only at like 13 at the time when they were coming out, and I got them because I thought they were just amazing.
Hey, they're always.
You got them handy still? See, I think I actually ended up. I don't know what I did with mine. I left them at with my mom.
They're
for the
always
end.
they're always right at hand because I get asked all the time, and we're going to have another Frazetta painting in the next auction directly from the family. But I always need to have reference. So, and I have one here that I'm particular about because I sat down with Frank. I'd always make fun of him and say, I have no idea what I ask you about this painting, and you tell me this one's $1 million. This is back when a painting was like $30,000. I'm telling you this is $1 million, and then the next one is that's not so good. So to me, the second one might be just as good, but so you never knew. So one day I said, why don't you sit down with me and go through all the paintings? So I took out my books and then I put a rating. I'd say, give me a rating 1 to 10, and then he did it for the first time. He rated his own paintings. So I have those notations on the
on what he felt about each of the paintings. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Well, see, that was a good question. Thank you very much, Knights of Old. I mean, those are, I'm a huge Frazetta fan and that genre of artwork. So I remember we talked about someday, there's so many different, when we're not doing a heritage preview, there's parts from your career that are really interesting. Your time with Frazettas, your work with Carmen Infantino, the early auctions, or that you organized. I mean, all that stuff I think would be of interest, to do just standalone shows and talk about those periods of your career, all before your time with Heritage. That really, I find fascinating, and I think a lot of other people would as well. But we've got a few more pieces to look at from the Heritage preview here.
Okay.
Let me share my screen again, and of course, there's this Daredevil yellow cover from Mr. Tim Sale.
We have several really great Tim Sale pieces in the sale. I mean, this is that period, really, again, film noir, black and white, very stark, beautiful. I really like that period in Tim Sale.
No, I do too. I mean, there's just his ink wash style in these pieces. I mean, there's so much play in here with the lighter tones and whatnot. You don't get it in all throughout Tim's career where you get this kind of work in it. I think because I've got one of his Spider-Man Blue pages, and it's different. It doesn't quite look like the work that he was doing here with Daredevil. So this is it's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't know Tim Sale personally. I met him several times, but I didn't know him well enough. But to me, his style changed once he started doing animation, and then it became much more, curvy and stark. But this is the stuff that I remember Tim Sale.
Yeah, that's a great image. Oh, this is the other Sandman page you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Sam Keith.
Yeah.
Wow. Is
it John Constantine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Constantine fan, look at this in the background, you've got it all going on here. And you've got the other style with Sam Keith. It's a great page.
Yeah, no, this will do well. I mean, and this is that kind of interesting panel layout choices that they were doing, this kind of swooping line through there. I mean, it's just very, very interesting. You go back and look through those early Sandman pages, and there's just a lot of experimenting going on with page layouts in them. And this is a beauty.
Page 3. I mean, this is issue 3, isn't it?
Issue 3. Yep,
yeah, it's an early page and signed by both. I mean, look at the bottom.
Yeah, and Gaiman has signed that one as well.
Yeah.
Nope, that one is going to do really well.
Yeah.
And then here, this is from 1939. I think maybe a few auctions back, you had a very early Detective Comics cover.
Last auction there was an early cover. I don't know if I told a story about where these came from. Fred Gardner was answered an ad and at the when national periodicals was just beginning. So Vin Sullivan puts out an ad, and Gardner shows up, and he's asked to sit down and start, do a cover. So he does a cover, and he doesn't get paid. He does another, he doesn't get paid. So meanwhile, the he continues to do work for them because he's trying to put together a portfolio of art. He was an aspiring artist. So all he asked, he says, "Look, I'm not getting paid, but I'd like to get my art back because I'd like to, have a record and create a portfolio." So he was one of the only artists ever to ask for his art back in the golden age like that. So he asked for his art back. Then, he never made a lot of money as an artist. So he left, and he was discovered on Long Island as a postman by Jerry DeFuccio, the editor at Mad Magazine, and he still had that original portfolio. And in that portfolio, he had a handful of these early covers. So I think he had Detective 23, 24, Action Comics 9, Action Comics 15, Action Comics 16. He only did one Superman cover, which was the Action 15. I owned all of these covers. And the person that I sold this cover to, she's the first person to ever complete a collection of every single DC comic book.
Oh my gosh.
And she never owned a piece of art. I sold her Action 1. But she had never owned a piece of art. And I said, "How could you have all of these books, love DC, and now these covers are found and you don't even?" So she actually bought a couple of these things, and these are coming in from her. So it's a piece of history. This is probably, I think I own still, I want to guess 6 or 7 of these. I'd like the earliest More Fun cover, the earliest Detective cover, the earliest Action cover, the earliest almost every one of those major titles. So this is a piece of history.
You could open a museum sometime, Joe, yourself.
Yeah, I got my own.
Yeah, they're only printing 10s though. They could have gone for 20s at least, 50s. Back in
the day, it was equivalent to 100. And look, right. They let Gardner sign his own cover back then.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
And you think back, I'll give you another great story. The other classic artist of the early days of DC was Leo Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the cover of Action Comics, 2 and 5, and those beautiful, very beautifully drawn covers. Again, not a Superman cover. Now Amelia did do the cover of Superman #1, but it's those other covers that he's known for. And then all of a sudden, Amelia disappears. He's not in comics anymore, and nobody can find him. So I go on a search to try and figure out what happened to Leo Amelia, and I meet an old artist. He says, "What do you mean?" He's Leo. He worked as the sports cartoonist for the New York Daily News from the 40s on. And so I contact. What was the name of the guy that's he's a Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist that everybody relates back to as the sports cartoonist for the Daily News? And I contact him, and he tells me, yeah, Leo Amelia was his mentor, and unfortunately he was in a nursing home and had dementia in Florida, and you weren't able. You
found him.
You found him, but there wasn't anything to communicate with him.
Well, that's too bad, but at least you kind of tracked him down.
Yeah.
Is it Bill Gallo? I think
That's it. Bill Gallo is exactly.
Mike just
Yeah.
mentioned that in the chat. Thank you, Mike.
And he was he's my favorite sports cartoonist. You're right.
Yeah, he could do a good likeness, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did a lot of Mickey Mantle, and then the early Mets. He was really known for his Casey Stengel and his early Mets when the Mets were so pathetic. It was very funny.
Well, the Mets haven't gotten much better over the years, but I mean, I guess they had a good year this year. Although Albert would tell you they probably didn't have a good year with the way it ended. All right, so Gil Kane, we can't go. You can't go wrong with. This is a good Kane Anderson Green Lantern cover.
There aren't many,
really,
nice Green Lantern covers, and this is certainly one. I mean, this is a beautiful cover. So for those that aren't aware of that, go back and check, and you'll see that they've always been rare, especially Kane Anderson, and I mean, and the size of Green Lantern in this is makes it very impressive. You have Star Sapphire, and I mean, it's a beautiful cover. This is going to go for some decent money. What's this one at?
It's a 21 now, but yeah, it's got to go much higher than that.
Yeah, still very underrated. It's going to go less than an interior Bronze Age page. It's going to go less than a Sandman page.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious. I'd have to think this one's going to do pretty well. I mean, it is gorgeous. I mean, I love Kane's work, even his DC work, everybody. And this one is awesome.
Even his DC work. That cracks me up. I don't like Kane's Marvel. When Kane came and starts doing, I could not think of a guy who was less suited for Spider-Man than Gil Kane.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Stylistic. His style became so. Kane's style was very V. He didn't use circles. He used V's and more of a pyramid shape.
Sure.
And he was very much into like the characters always reaching out and stretching and everything else. So when you have Spider-Man, who's very circular and round, and the Romita Spider-Man, it couldn't be more different than those two. But hey, it worked, and now who am I to say? Everybody loves what they were first exposed to.
Exactly. And again, I never read DC, so for me, that's his Marvel work was where I really learned about him. But no, I love this piece.
Gil Kane's Green Lantern. Go back to the earliest pieces where a lot of art was very primitive. It wasn't with Gil Kane. Gil Kane was very sophisticated. Gil Kane was Neil Adams' favorite artist. That's who he emulated in the beginning. If you go back and look at a lot of Kane's Adams' layouts, they're Kane, but with even more detail.
Well, I mean, it's I can see why. I mean, Kane was probably a big influence on a lot of young artists at that time, and it's clear why. I mean, he's doing a masterful job on this piece. Anderson's inks are pretty good too.
Oh yeah. Anderson added the weight and the clarity, no doubt about it.
Let's see. Not sure why I'm on there. Let's go over to here. So Don Rosa, that's a good pick as well.
The only reason I picked this is I don't know how many people are aware that Don Rosa's most famous work is The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck, which tells the complete history. Don, who was a huge fan of comics in general, but in particular Carl Barks, went back and researched every single mention of Uncle Scrooge ever in any publication, and then went back and wrote the entire prequel prior to him appearing in any in the regular comic books in 4-color 178, which was Christmas on Bear Mountain. So there'd never been a page offered. Don had all the art. These come directly from Don. I knew Don before he was an artist when we were both collectors back in the day, and we'd meet back in San Diego 35, 40 years ago. People don't realize Don Rosa's comic collection was so extensive that the majority of the Overstreet Price Guide came out of Don Rosa's collection. Overstreet went to see Don, and he has every single book meticulously uh, shelved and everything else. And Overstreet went book by book by book. And he had all of these obscure books in addition to every mainstream book. So if you go back and look at the earliest price guides, you'll see it's based on Don Rosa's collection. So and then he became an artist, then he became as popular as anybody. In Europe, he's incredibly popular. Mm-hmm. I go to European shows, there's an 8-hour line to see Don Rosa. It's unbelievable. So this is one of the best covers. This is, of course, from, what is it? Uncle Scrooge 456, the second Uncle Scrooge, where he talks about how he was a miner up in Alaska, and he meets Goldie, the woman to the left. That's the love of his life. So this is Don Rosa's take on that. So you have the cover and the complete book.
Wow. Well, this is this is unique, and I wasn't aware of that about Don. I mean, as far as him being a comic collector like that, but I guess it shouldn't surprise me. But this is a great piece.
And the sad part is Don had a disconnected retina several years ago, and as a result, he can't draw anymore. He can do rough sketches, but he can't do work like this anymore. So that's it.
Well, that's a shame. So hey, you've obviously met and talked to many creators in your time. I mean, is there any creator that you didn't get to meet that you had always wanted to? I mean, you've been around a lot of different people, but was there anybody on your list?
Oh, there's been, I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot. Well, I never met Lou Fine. I never met Reed Crandall. I never met Wally Wood. I may have met Wally Wood at a show, but I think the first show I ever went to, he might have came there for a day or something, but I didn't meet him. Mm-hmm. So there were guys that passed at an early age that I wish I had. But I've met my share, and it's one thing to meet somebody at a show for a few minutes. It's another thing to get to know them.
Right.
I just spent some. I know Walt Simonson going back to the late 70s, and I just was with him, and I had no idea when I got married. Nadia and I got married. We lived in Kew Gardens, and we opened a comic book store in 1981. Walt and Louise lived in Kew Gardens, only a few blocks from us, and used to go to that store. I didn't know him. He was an artist at the time.
Right. Wow. Marcus says that Rosa wanted to only sell books complete at one point.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we've broken these up. He never sold any of these, and never gave me specific. He wanted to sell this entire collection. He asked me to offer it first, but you're talking 7 figures. So we offered it privately, which we very rarely ever do, and it usually doesn't work. People always are a little suspicious when you do that, but he's made a lot more money than he would have if he had sold it all. I think there's 12 books. Mm-hmm. And 17 different covers. People don't realize these books were first published in Europe. And as soon as they came out, they were so popular that Bruce Hamilton immediately asked Don if he could get the rights and reprint them in America. But within a month or two, it's a reprint, but it's not a reprint. Mm-hmm. But for those, they got new covers. So the first books didn't even have a cover.
That's interesting. Huh.
Look at the detail. Look at the work
I
that's
know.
compared
It
to a
is. It's
Marx.
amazing.
Yeah. And we have all the other pages. If you go through it, some of the pages are spectacular, and they're bigger than regular comic pages.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. What size he was working on with these? Does it list it? Well, this is oh, the image area is small on this one, but the pages you're talking about are larger. I could search for it, but let's see. You want me to
Yeah, and
search
a
around?
cover like this, because we've sold several, probably going to sell in the, I don't know, $25,000-$30,000 range. But to me, this is a superior cover.
Yeah, right. They're a little bit oversized, 12 and a half by 18 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
I
nice.
mean, they're golden age size as opposed to silver age size.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. Oh, Knights of Old had another question for you. Do you have any Bill Everett stories?
Stories? No. Oh, you mean stories about Bill Everett?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we have
guess.
a great Bill Everett. I met Bill Everett a couple of times, never got to know him. Bill Everett seems to be, but I know a lot of people who were very good friends with Bill Everett, like Roy Thomas or a lot of other guys. Unfortunately, Everett seemed to have, an issue with alcohol, which probably led to his untimely, early demise,
Mm.
and also, led to him having problems staying in the industry for a while. I mean, Stan Lee brought him back in, but that's why he was probably better as an inker, without the pressure of doing penciling. There's Marty Grimes was a guy who used to do conventions, very early guy in fandom. If you do a search of Bill Everett in this sale, there's a piece that Everett did. He appeared at a show at one of Marty Grimes, and he did a piece. So he had the Golden Age Submariner and the Silver Age Submariner, which he was drawing at that time,
Mm-hmm.
in the same drawing. So if you do a search, you'll see it in this sale.
I will look it up, definitely. So let's see, what do we got? Starlin.
Yeah,
Hulk transformation cover.
that's a pretty good Hulk cover.
Yes,
By
it
anybody. I mean, by anybody. Never mind just by Starlin. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good cover. And you got all of the cosmic stuff in the background, which is kind of a signature of Jim Starlin's.
oh yeah.
I mean, it's so dramatic. I thought I had to include it.
Well, I mean, who doesn't like Starlin's work at the end of the day? I mean, this is great, and there's a lot of Hulk collectors out there that I know of. So, yeah, I think this is a nice looking piece. Some people are going to really like it. I'll like to add it to their calf gallery one day.
Yeah, and that face is very reminiscent of the Steve Ditko Hulk.
Yeah,
when he did him. Yeah,
sure. I can see that.
yeah.
And we got a Kirby Stone X-Men 10 page.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you see a page from X-Men number 10 with, Kazar and, their version of Tarzan? And I think it's Chick Stone inks, right? Beautifully
Mhm.
inked page. And action, and you got all the X-Men. I mean, it's a great page. Just has to be included. This is an interesting auction. We may not end up with $1 million item in this auction, but there's just a lot of good art in this auction.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. There's like not that Grand Slam piece in this auction, but not every auction has to have that one super signature piece that everybody wants to know where it's going to end up at. I think you guys have been fortunate to have that piece or even multiple pieces like that in some of the past auctions, but no, I mean, and honestly, this is out of the first 12 issues of X-Men. This is probably one of my favorite stories. So, I mean, when I saw this page, I did look this one up before I got your list, and it is one of my, I love this page. If I could own this page, I would own it because It is gorgeous. And who didn't like? I mean, that, and they revisit going back to the Savage Land, right, numerous times as a story. But this is the first time they do it. So for me, this was always a special issue.
I agree.
And Schomburg from 44.
Yeah. Another this I used to own this cover, and one of Wes Steffen's buddies, consigned this cover. I haven't asked him if I can use his name, so I won't. But he consigned several great pieces to this auction, both Golden Age and Silver Age, and this is one of them. This is a great Green Hornet Schomburg cover. I mean, look at the amount of work in this.
No, it's amazing how much. Yeah, right. I mean, everywhere you look, he's put far too much detail in it than he probably needed to. But wow, It is amazing.
When you think of it, he's one of the few artists that I mean, Joe Simon tells a story of he hired Alex Schomburg specifically to do covers for first Timely and then Harvey. But he said that the covers sell the books, and that's the only thing that he was hired to do is just a cover. So where else did you see someone hired to just come into the industry and do a cover before doing anything else in the comics?
Yeah, I'm just kind of dumbfounded looking at this, and I'm trying to count the vehicles, and there's just so much work put into this piece. It's incredible.
And if you think about it, if you had to lay this out prior to drawing it with the perspective, right? Look at the perspective lines coming. You'd have to start. I mean, of course, my finger's not doing the job, but here from the Green Lantern going back to the back of the thing is one complete plane, and then going down into the ship again, then going from left to right. I mean, it's to do this accurately is, and you got foreshortening here. You've got that. I mean, there's so much going on. This is not an easy cover to do in any regard, and to do it correctly and well. And this is just done perfectly. And his line is so clean. He penciled it. He inked it. Unfortunately, there's only one known Schomburg Timely cover that exists, the cover of Human Torch 16. Again, I used to own that cover, and I sold that to Jim Halpern. And that cover only exists because there was a guy that was hired to do, he wanted to be an artist at Timely, came in and they were looking for a letterer at the time. So they gave him a sample. And they said, see if you can do lettering like this. And they gave him a cover. And he kept the cover all those years. And he called me up many years ago, and he had that cover.
That's amazing.
Now, all of these covers came out of the Harvey warehouse.
Man, it's still surprising to see it have it. It's still here. Almost 80 years old, so that's amazing. What do we got next here? Oh, an apparel. Okay, he's pretty hot these days, of course.
Yeah.
Apparel. This is from Batman 426.
Isn't this the Death of the Family?
Death in the Family.
Death in the Family, Chapter 2 story, right? Complete book, 22 pages. So again, if you want to, now we've had art from Mignola and other guys, but I mean a complete Jim Aparo book from I mean, I don't know if you want me to go into it again, but the story arc again. At the end of the 80s, where everybody wanted to do Batman, and here's again one of the famous storylines of a Death in the Family, where Jason Todd comes in. The whole bit. I don't need to get into it all, but if you're a Batman fan, if you're a fan of that period of time, if you want something iconic, I mean, when do you get complete book?
Yeah, not too often.
And Aparo was, again, there's another odd. I would not have thought. I go back to Aparo being the Aquaman artist, of my youth. That's what he did, period. So all of a sudden, him doing, he had a very cartoony style back then, almost like H.G. Peters' Wonder Woman type of thing. But when he started working on Batman, he had complete. He just made it his own.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome. And 22 page complete. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love his work. I mean, look how clean his stuff is. And I guess I know what you're saying by a little bit cartoony in the early on, but yeah, this stuff Aparo is so sought after anymore. I mean, I'd even take a Batman page, and again, not being the DC guy, I've admired his work for many years. So
yeah.
I got that page again. Oh, another Joe Simon Fighting Americans playoffs. Wow.
Again, from that same collector, here's Fighting American splash page of issue number 1. Simon and Kirby having created Captain America. Well, when the opportunity arose where superheroes were being reintroduced back in the 50s, and Harvey wanted to come up with the thing, they went back to their roots with Captain America and came up with Fighting American. So if none of that artwork exists. So here's the next best thing.
Yeah, that's a really nice page too.
I own the origin page, hand colored, that they used to sell the idea. It was penciled by Jack, inked by Joe, and then hand colored by Jack. And it's a very large page, and it's the exact kind of it's similar origin to Captain America, where he's in that machine and the whole bit.
Mm-hmm. That would have been interesting to see Jack's colors on a page like that.
I don't have it handy, or I would show it to you, but
maybe next time.
Okay.
Or a photograph of it. You could always send me a photo. We could pull it up. I'd love to see it. I'd really be interested to see that.
Okay. If I remember, I will do it.
All right. Let's see here. We got a couple more. And somebody's mentioning Neil Adams, and we go right to a Neil Adams Green Lantern page here.
Yeah, I mean, here's that auctions have gone to what degree they've gone when a page from Green Lantern 85, the iconic book of Neil Adams, is in an auction, and it's like barely worth mentioning. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, people would have killed to have a page from this years ago.
Yeah, well, it's still reasonably priced. I'm sure that once we start getting closer to the close of this one, it's going to do a bit better than that. But I know what you're saying. It's funny how certain pieces can become overshadowed in an auction, of this size with so many nice pieces in it. Some pieces could fall through the cracks. You never know, but you'd think that the piece like this shouldn't. Anybody who's a Neil Adams fan, I mean, we lost Neil this year. I mean, his market couldn't be really hotter than it is right now. And this is a really, really great example.
And when we're talking, of course, of iconic artists that were influential for their period, when you're talking about Bronze Age, the end of the Silver Age, Bronze Age, and you're talking about Neil Adams and Steranko and Wrightson and Barry Smith, I mean, what artist does not point back to a Neil Adams?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they like them or not, they absolutely admired the talent. It's undeniable. and he influenced an entire generation of artists up until today. I mean, there's no denying.
Oh
I,
no,
I
without
don't think we
question.
have to take any time to talk about the genius of Neil Adams.
No, and his contributions across the board.
Yeah.
Bringing in new talent, helping new talent get their first work. I mean, uh, in some cases, even when it wasn't in comics, it was advertising. I mean, Neil helped, many creators get their start and get them work when they needed it. I mean, he made a difference
Oh yeah.
in the business for many
He,
many
he,
people.
he also never backed off of a fight, even if it was at the risk of jeopardizing his career. He was the guy that took up the banner for Siegel and Schuster,
Hmm.
and then for the rights to have comic art returned to artists, and then even things like coloring. Where he loves to talk about the fact that when he got in, they were using such a limited palette, and then he insisted that they use more colors, and that's why his books had such a distinctive look. He was so involved in every aspect of it, and he really changed the industry for the better. His books were some of the earliest books that were also on high quality paper, and then as you said, Continuity Studios, where he's doing both comics and he was in advertising. People forget Neil Adams, his first work out of school was in advertising. He had a complete backward career where most artists got into art comics back then because they couldn't get into advertising, and that's what they wanted to do. Adams
Right.
was in advertising. Next thing you know, gets a newspaper strip, which is the second thing that almost every artist wanted,
Yeah.
and then becomes a comic book artist. I mean, it's completely opposite
Well,
of everybody else.
he was so
Well,
talented. That was the
and
thing.
it's also because that's what he, to me, it's very different when people talk about, oh, comic book art. No, he wanted to be a comic book artist. That was his number one thing. So we can't say that that was the only kind of art that he could do. No, that's what he wanted to do.
Right. Well, that was the rare thing at the time. Like you were saying, most guys prior to him were in comics because they were trying to, it was their leapfrog to get into advertising where the real money was. And it was Neil and then a lot of the artists that came after him that wanted to have careers in comics. That was their real love. So yeah, it was unique. And he was, one of the first people that wanted to make a career out of it, but he still
Yeah,
did advertising. He wasn't a fool. I mean, as a businessman, that's one of the best things about him was that he never missed an opportunity. And again, I just think he's one of those people who will always remain one of the most influential people in the hobby that was able to kind of call his own shots. And like Rick Welch mentioned and you mentioned, I mean, we wouldn't have a hobby if he didn't get artists to get all their get their art back to him. You'd have stories like we were talking about earlier, where things just got thrown out, whatever. Here, when he lobbied for that, I mean, that was really the beginnings of of comic art collecting, in earnest, when the creators were getting their work back.
you're right. The At one point the market was totally strangled. You could say you're a collector, but if there's nothing to collect,
Yeah,
what good is it?
I agree. Let's see, we got a couple more pieces to look at here. Joe Kubert, Brave and the Bold page, Hawkman.
Again, back in the day, you would kill a page from the first appearance of Hawkman by Joe Kubert. I
Yeah,
mean, what a page!
this is awesome. I mean, I've
I mean, this is Showcase 34.
right. This is great. I love.
Again, the history of comics, the complete, restarting of the Silver Age of comics began right here.
Yeah, there was an exhibit in Spain for Joe's work. I think it's going on now through mid-January or something. Somebody had sent us some video clips from it and some stills, but there were quite a few pages from Brave and the Bold Hawkman pages. And yeah, I love his work. I know I'll never be able to afford a Hawkman page, but I'll take a war, any war story page will be fine too. But yeah, he's just an incredible artist. But these pages in particular just blow me away every time I see him. And again, I didn't read them. I've never read these stories, but just looking at the art, he's just an amazing talent. And this is 61, right? I think it was 61. Yeah, 1961. Wow. Let's see. We got two more here. What's next? Oh, this was an interesting piece. I forget how many characters are on it. I mean, I think it said in the description. What is it? Where was that?
39 characters.
39.
By 30 different artists, many of which signed the piece, even including some of the writers. Again, that same collector could sign this. Just a spectacular. I mean, I had to include it because it's so unique.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. You got a Bill Sienkiewicz Moon Knight. You got a Frank Miller, Ann Claus Jansen Daredevil in there, a Leia Loa Spider Woman, Vosberg on She-Hulk. I mean, you've got you've got pretty much all the people you'd want drawing some of these characters in here.
And what's unusual is you've seen things like this for maybe done for a fanzine or something like this. Was a published double page spread from Fantastic Four Roast. So this is a published page like this. That's what makes this so unique.
Wow. Yeah, it's awesome. It is really, really gorgeous. Oh, and John Romita Jr. And is that Leighton inks on Iron Man? I mean, come on. Yeah, I'm just the more you look at it, the more you realize how amazing this piece is.
Yeah. And
a Pollard Thor. I love Keith Pollard's run on short run on Thor. He was incredible on it. Well, all right. Well, that one's really great, and it's at 12,000 right now. And like you said, it's published too.
Yeah, it's a fun piece. Another great piece for a wall. I mean, come on. If you're a Marvel fan, how could you not like this piece?
I love it. I love it. I'm a Marvel fan.
Yeah.
Oh man, so this is our last piece to talk about tonight. This is one you kind of came in and said, hey, we should put some of the, we should bring in one of these pieces by one. I mean, a Meta Barons page from this is issue 1 from '92, 30 years old. I mean, I think his art's always been pretty sought after, and I think I don't recall how many pages from one is in this auction.
I don't know how many we have, maybe 4. But the thing is that none of this art was always very sought after, and very little was ever on the market because he had it all himself. Then he passed away, and this comes from the family. So this is the first time this material is on the market. And for those that are not aware, this was very influential to a lot of people. I mean, this is in Europe, like the science fiction story, this Moebius, but the Meta Barons story arc and characters are just, they're so well known in Europe, and every page is painted like that. So it's very unusual that any of those ever came on the market. So I just wanted to bring it to people's attention. Take a look at some of the art and take a look at the importance of it. Read up on it a little bit, and you'll be amazed. I mean, the prices are still very reasonable because it's still moving from there to here. I believe we sold in the international sale, maybe not the last one, but the one before. I mean, a cover, these like $50,000, $70,000, and more. So these are very, very highly sought after.
No, I love the work. I mean, this page is spectacular too. I mean, wow. I'd love to. I would, if I could, I would own this page. This is right up my alley. But yeah, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Ton of work.
Well, no, I'm glad you included a Meta Barons page in here too, because
$975 is the current bid.
And Marcus is right. There are a few Meta Barons covers on CAF. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fair amount of Juan's work on CAF. If I were to go, it's been a while since I've done a search for him on there, but I'm always pleasantly surprised when I see some of that work end up on our site. So well, this will be interesting. I mean, I'll be watching on Thursday afternoon. Probably.
Yeah, I don't know how many. Usually, you start off these things with how the comic art market is.
Oh yeah, when we do the recap, yeah, we will do a recap show on. I think we have it scheduled for Tuesday next week.
So how much art is in this? Like 800 lots? I don't know.
I forget. I had that number. I should have wrote it down before I sat
But
down with you.
there's a lot of art in this sale.
Yeah, no, there's let's see, we can look at it from here, right? 784, and then you get at 800 when you add in a few of the other types of art in there as well. So no, it's very well represented. I mean, there's a lot, and that's what you were talking about. There's a lot of volume here. I think that's where maybe a page like the Neil Adams page gets a little bit lost because there is so much volume in this, and there's a lot of really good stuff that people are going to be very interested in. So you never know. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, on Tuesday we'll be able to compare it to. We always do a comparison to I think the last year and a half, the last 8 auctions that have been out there. So that'll give us some perspective on things. I always break down what's the average cost per lot. Just try to just figure out how an auction ranks or compares to other ones, and then I try to look at a comparison, kind of a year-over-year growth to see if there's any trends there. Clearly, since we've been doing these, everything's trending up. So it's almost like I'm repeating myself every time we do one.
Yeah, I know. But
it's good to see the data. You can't argue with it.
We've also been there where it wasn't true as true, but we'll see.
Right.
And I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody the next signature sale is in January, and the deadline is only in 2 weeks. So we're already at the deadline for the next sale. So if anybody's been thinking about consigning, now's the time, or you're going to miss out, especially with the holidays. We all get caught up in the holidays, and next thing you know, we miss it. So, if anybody wants, you could get in touch with me. I think you probably have my email address, but it's very simple, joem@ha.com.
Yeah, Heritage does the easiest job on remembering email addresses, but Joe, please, if you're interested, shoot Joe an email, joem@ha.com, and that will, you can fill him in on the whole process. We should definitely always remember to talk about that. But yeah, you guys have been pretty consistent on the dates of your auctions too. I mean, year over year. I mean, you do 5 signature auctions.
Yeah, we're up to 5 signature auctions. Now we do also showcase auctions. They've mostly been, although we just did the Harlan Ellison, a fair amount of artwork in it. Some great pages in there
it did really well, I thought.
Yeah, it did. Those pages went really high. But we are doing showcase auctions for, unique collections, interspersing them in the middle of our signature sales now. But we do have 5 signature sales a year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you've had great opportunities and great collections that have come in, like the Glenn Crane. That was an incredible. I knew I couldn't buy anything in it, but just seeing the work that he put out there, and because he's such a great collector, today, just always picking up things. It's amazing when he sold that, and then just watching him then like grow his collection again over the last few years. I love our hobby because of things like that, those opportunities to see new artwork come out of a collection, and then see where they take their collection from that point forward, and what still excites them as a collector from one like 10 years ago to where they're at today. Those are really just fun changes in a person's kind of collecting interest. So Joe, I guess we can call it a night. We didn't make it to 2 hours, but we're only about 5 minutes short. So
beautiful.
Yeah. Tell Nadia we appreciate the fact that she was here with us to kick things off. I know, I hope the rest of the unpacking goes smoothly over there. If there's Yeah, I mean, if there's ever anything I can do for you guys, you just let me know. But I'll be
Oh, I
looking.
appreciate that. And the same is true. I know you're still in the midst of it as well. So, yeah, the last time I counted, there was over 200 boxes of comic boxes alone. I thought I'd been long past all of that, but
You didn't know what you
oh
had.
my God, it's just like never ending.
No, I completely get it. I really
Yeah.
do. And you know what? And so I guess I probably won't see you until after the new year. So have a great Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season. A good,
And
great
the
Christmas.
same to everyone on the channel. And I really appreciate you tuning in as always. And if there's anything I can ever do, please do not hesitate. I'm very accessible, let's say. So if you use a crowbar, I'll give you my opinion.
Oh man. All right, Joe. Well, listen,
All right.
thanks again. And
Thank you,
we'll talk
Bill.
again
All the
soon.
best.
Yep. Have a good night.